know. But very wonderful content. He's very knowledgeable in Marvel. One of the most knowledgeable people I actually know. And you check his page, you will know. Talk to him, you will know he actually knows a lot. So yes, he's helping out with this content. He's gonna start dropping bangers on YouTube as well. So please go at least check or subscribe until he starts dropping. Then you would see. And then you'll see us do one or two things together once in a while. Also, please do to subscribe if you like this video. Seriously, watch to the end. It's gonna be wonderful. The main thing is you understanding the both feats. And without further ado, let's dive in.
Thank you, Honcho, for this awesome introduction. Now, I'm DC Marvel Geeks. You guys can call me Geeks for short. I'm here to explain the Sentry to you guys, so let's get into it. Now, Bob Reynolds, also known as the Sentry, is an extremely powerful Marvel superhero, and I'm sure you all have heard about him sometimes or another. But just how powerful is he? Well, I'm here to explain to you guys just that. Before explaining just how powerful Sentry is though, we need to first talk about how his powers work. His powers depend on his mental stability. The more unstable he is, the weaker he becomes, and the other way around. Although this is one of the most defining traits of the Sentry, many people seem to not know about this, which is very strange, because this really changes the Sentry's power scaling a lot. Going over the following versions of the Sentry: Unstable Sentry, Fully Stable Sentry, the Void, and his newest form, Merged Sentry. Starting off with Unstable Sentry. Now, Unstable Sentry's power level differs a lot depending on just how unstable he is. That's how he goes from being hurt by Human Torch, the android one, the first Marvel character, in one comic, to being superior to Shaman Nate Grey in another one. His unstableness causes him to have a different power level in nearly every comic he is in. Nonetheless, I'll try to scale him. Some of his best feats are being stated to be superior to Shaman Nate Grey, who was equal to the Phoenix Force as a child. He also is frequently compared to Franklin Richards. Ripping apart Ares as if it was nothing, the same Ares who was fighting Nate Grey toe to toe and was stated to be the embodiment of war across every plane of existence. This statement came directly from Nate Grey, who is a multiversal level being, meaning it wouldn't make any sense if he was only referring to one universe. This also couldn't be the case because Olympus, the home of the Greek gods and so also the home of Ares, exists outside the universe, the main universe, meaning it couldn't just affect one universe. Unstable Sentry also went toe to toe with Green Scar Hulk, also known as World War Hulk. Before the fight, Sentry had a 29-hour long agoraphobic panic attack, during which he didn't even move once. He only moved because he had to face the Hulk and had no other choice. But that's not the only thing that affected his mental stability during that fight. He also was scared of losing control over his powers and didn't want to fight the Hulk, as he was one of his best friends. Nonetheless, he was able to put up a really good fight against the Hulk, to the point where it was nearly a stalemate between them. And in case you don't know just how powerful Green Scar Hulk is, he was the same Hulk who took on a full power Zom Doctor Strange during Chaos War. Keep in mind, Zom is a classic Doctor Strange villain, who even Eternity and Dormammu were afraid to fight in a 2v1 battle. Zom was also straight up talking down to the Chaos King during Chaos Wars, and the Chaos King didn't do anything about that, suggesting that they are at least somewhat comparable to each other. The same Chaos King was stated to be equal to Multi-Eternity. Another really good feat for Unstable Sentry is him taking on the Collective. The Collective is a being who had all powers of the mutants who got their powers taken away by Scarlet Witch during the House of M event. In Venom the End, a Venom storyline published just this March, Venom, who absorbed a similar amount of mutant powers as the Collective, was able to defeat beings that could kill Galactus and the Living Tribunal with ease. The latter one obviously being an avatar, but that's still pretty impressive. The Sentry also performed some feats during which we don't know if he was stable or not. For example, one of these feats is tanking the ultimate nullifier, the same thing that was able to completely erase multi-eternity and the Braxis out of existence, and fighting Galactus to a standstill. It's also not known how fat Galactus was during that fight, but given Sentry's feats, even if Galactus was somewhat fat, it wouldn't make sense that it was Stable Sentry, because Stable Sentry would have authorized him. Let's get into some of his low-end feats. Some of Sentry's low-end showings are being hurt by the Human Torch, the android one, as already said earlier, the first Marvel character, struggling against Wendigo Hulk, Joe Fixit, Namor, Red Hulk, and some other characters he normally would easily demolish. Now, as I said earlier, Sentry was unstable in all of these fights, not just that. In some fights there is even more context to why Sentry performed so bad against certain characters than him simply being unstable. Such as against the Human Torch. During that fight, Jim Hammond was bluffing, telling the Sentry he could overload his powers. Sentry, being mentally ill and afraid of his powers, believed that and fled the Earth instantly. Taking into consideration all of these low-end showings Sentry has, it's safe to say that he scaled from anywhere between solar system level to high autoversal. Now that's a huge gap, but that's just how his character works. Fully stable Sentry is already much easier to scale than unstable Sentry and has a much more clear established power level. It's also important to note that since the Void is always trying to take over Sentry's body, which affects his mental stability as Sentry's power are held together by his mind, the Sentry is never truly stable unless the Void leaves his body completely, which happened a few times before, but even then his mental health issues can cause him to still be unstable. Fully stable Sentry, however, is able to easily take down the Void, and the Void was able to stomp Doctor Strange, who had the power of Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil Doctor Strange was stated to be the most powerful version of Doctor Strange ever, and Sorcerer Supreme Loki be a threat to the whole Marvel multiverse. The Void was also stated by Bob to be so powerful that he became the leader of the Cancerverse and the Many-Angled Ones. The Many-Angled Ones come from the Neutral Zone, a realm which exists outside of and transcends multi-eternity. The Void separating from the Sentry during Annihilation Scourge also ripped a hole open between the Neutral Zone, the Negative Zone, and the Cancerverse, causing the Many-Angled Ones and the Cancerverse forces to invade the Negative Zone and the 616 universe in the first place. Now, lastly, let's talk about Merged Sentry. Merged Sentry is Sentry's newest form, and he's from the 2018 Sentry run by Jeff Lemire. He's the result of Sentry fusing with the Void. Now, this version of the Sentry isn't really more powerful than Stable Sentry. His best feat is one-shotting the Cancerverse and the Many-Angled Ones, which is just about on the level of Fully Stable Sentry and the Void. It's important to note that technically this version of the Sentry shouldn't be able to become unstable at all, but as we saw during Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda number 2, this was still the case and the Void was still trying to take over Sentry's. Now, all of these three forms scale relative to each other. They all scale to inaccessible into high outer. In case you are wondering why they scale so high, Honcho will explain the Marvel cosmology later on, and then you will get why these feats.
Now that my homie has gone over the feats of the Sentry, how about I go over that of Superboy/Man Prime? He's able to not just violate Superboy, the regular Superboy, but he was able to take on the entire Teen Titans and ripping them apart unintentionally. The Flashes used literally all their power, and it took all known male speedsters to beat him, and they still couldn't. This is a feat greater than almost every recent death metal DC comics because they all exhausted the Speed Force like it was gone. Not even Flash Manhattan, with very little power of Dr. Manhattan, alongside all the Flashes running from the multiversal Batman who laughs, could pull this off. And they were straining the Speed Force even after Dark Multiverse Flashes joined. A lot of them, but these people did so, in the process losing Wally into the Speed Force. That alone is immeasurable into ultraversal field or baseline high ultraversal field. He's able to casually beat Earth 2 Superman or Golden Age Superman. And Golden Age and Silver Age were able to clash and fight and then literally destroy realities or so. 3. He's able to tank hits from Black Adam, who is rivals, if not arguably more powerful than Captain Marvel, who is stronger than Superman on a normal day without his hope plot-induced feats, and told him that his punches tickle. He tells Earth 1 and Earth 2 Superman that they are slow, and these are the same people that can move at immeasurable speeds below the God's fair. He further goes on to just molest the entire Green Lantern Corps, kills Golden Age Superman, and then nearly kills Silver Age. He gets kept in a Red Star, which drains Superman enormously of his power, but this dude is not affected by it, and draws an S on his bare skin, and just smells it away. Now, as Superman Prime, not the golden dude, he isn't a boy, and now he is a man. He takes on Monarch. Now, this is crazy impressive because Monarch is a threat to the monitors, and his quantum power alone is like the Big Bang. The monitors each watch over one multiverse out of the 52. Each multiverse within the orrery contains infinite universes and is a hyperversal construct. The monitors also could exist in the tier of the monitosphere, which is a possible infinitesimal transcendence to the limbo and the native godsphere. Superman Prime pulled out the energy of Monarch, causing a chain reaction, blowing up the entire galaxy, and just walks away. A war with Monarch was going to consume all of existence except the source, which is an impressive feat, of course. And that was Monarch, supposedly Monarch versus the monitors. The Time Trapper is able to casually mentally fuck and capture this lady who could move within the limbo casually. And I doubt this is limbo in hell or heaven, but this is comic book limbo that fictionally transcends the native godsphere. Superboy Prime was able to take casual magic hits from Mordru, of all people, who is consistently a top tier sorcerer. I gotta do a Time Trapper and Mordru video. Both Mordru New Earth or Prime Earth is still very impressive and skills to like the source tier. And Mordru from New Earth, who is the true master of order and chaos, right? And could give Wonder Woman, the Justice League Dark, including Swamp Thing, power enough to destroy the entire DC universe. Just little of his power. Definitely skills to high outer versal and could just casually walk into the overvoid. But the Mordru Superboy Prime is definitely a lot weaker than the current Mordru. Still very impressive. This same Mordru wanted the sister of this lady called Dream Girl, who can see into the future. Prime body slams Mordru and Time Trapper carries them away to this place. And Time Trapper is Superboy Prime, but a very much older version. And when Prime punched him, they both ceased to exist. And finally, he's able to one-shot the Anti-Monitor. This dude definitely scales to baseline high ultraversal. Very wonderful, very impressive dude. Now, For the cosmology of this part, I have spoken a lot on the cosmology. In fact, you just need to go watch my cosmology videos. Though they aren't as credible as what I understand now because I have been shouting I'm gonna do a new and final ones actually hours long. The DC one might be like 3 hours. The Marvel one might even be as long as 5 hours. But as long as I get the information out there, so people wouldn't be questioning every time. And of course, I always have evidence for everything I say. Only people, stupid people, that still dislike the video because of their bias. Now, of course, Marvel has a bigger cosmology. It's very obvious, and that I don't really have much to say. Go check the cosmology videos. The only problem with the DC cosmology videos is the tearing of the source, and probably the limbo. Then, for the Marvel one, from the inaccessible tier or high ultraversal upwards, is just completely wrong. And those are things I have to correct. But the rest, yep, they're very good and accurate. So, how about I lend my bro DC Marvel Geeks takes it from here.
Thank you, Honcho. Now let's get into the verdict. Now, as you can see by the scaling we laid out in the video, Sentry scales to inaccessible into high ultraversal, while Superboy Prime only scales to baseline high ultraversal. This would mean that Sentry would definitely win as long as its merged Sentry fully stable. Now, as for unstable Sentry, I explained earlier that his power levels differs a lot from